project on the Pioneer House.
The Pioneer people went in the house. Near the house there is a root cellar, wagon, outhouse, silo, barn, garden, and etc. The people stayed in the house the whole time unless they were somewhere else. The house is located near lakes, good soil, trees, and wood. This is about the house. The hearth was deep so it could hold andirons.
Andirons were iron stands that were used to hold wood for the fire.
The people spent a lot of their time growing or finding food. They needed to make a chain so they could put a pot in the fire. In their homes, they would have a cupboard against their things. They had to grow food in the summer and store it for the whole year. The garden was a very important part of their home. Did you know a root cellar was a nice, cool place where pioneers put their food to keep the food refrigerated? A root cellar was an underground room beside the house. Some vegetables and some root cellars in summer. Milk and butter was kept in the root cellars. Root cellars were used for storing food for the winter.
Early settlers used their fireplace or hearth for both cooking or heating. Fireplaces were usually made of stone with a mantle made of wood. Did you know that a pioneer home had a farm and a silo? A silo is a tall, skinny cylinder that held all the animals' food for the winter. And it was directed next to the barn or the farm. Did you know that a pioneer's first home would be like a shack or a house on the side of a hill, depending on the season? But as they got more and more sure of what to do and on what they needed, they would upgrade the house by making another house, and the house or shack that they built before would become a barn. A silo is a storage bin for chopped plants and grains. Did you know that silos used on farms allow farmers to supply livestock with nutritious food all year?
Once a pioneer found their lots, they hurried over to build their first house. Winter would soon come, or at least the rains and chills of fall. Some shelter was needed, but everyone knew it won't be a permanent home. Did you know early settlers used their fireplace or heat for both cooking and heating? A pioneer person would have to go to the barn to feed the animals, like sheep, because once a sheep wool is grown, they make yarn out of it. Did you know there were not very much windows in pioneer houses? The plank in between some of the logs let in some air. Everyone worked outside if there was light. They would leave when the light is gone. The pioneers worked hard in the rain or in the sun. The sooner they would have a better house. The shanty was always to sleep in, so I have one done.
The gristmill. Our project is on the gristmill.
Gristmills were run by a person called a miller. A miller's job is to grind grain and make sure it runs smoothly. The miller is an important part of the operation of the gristmill. A miller was usually paid a part of each pioneer's flour as payment. How the gristmill works. Most mills in pioneer times were run by water power, but some mills were run by wind power. Grain was poured into a funnel called a hopper. The poured grain tumbled around the grooves between the millstones and was ground in the
The corn was ground into cornmeal and wheat was ground into flour. Did you know? Did you know that grist means part of that which is ground? Did you know that the two mills that pioneers needed most were grist mills and windmills? Did you know that grinding grain by hand didn't work with wheat, barley, and oats? Did you know to make a grist mill run, water was made to flow down a wooden trough?
This is the outhouse.
We studied the Pioneer Schoolhouse. In the bedroom room was a box of a fireplace.
A male teacher was called a schoolmaster and a female teacher was called a student in the streets.
Students would attend school 6 days a week and 1 day break.
Some older students did not attend school regularly, so they would help planting and harvesting.
There are few books in the pioneer settlements because they were expensive at that time. Parents had no time to teach their children because it took a long time to do their chores and make a living.
The teachers taught their 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. And that is another way to say reading, writing, and math.
In Europe in the 1800s, very few people learned to read and write.
There was not any pencils or paper in the early pioneer time.
Teachers were usually paid with things the family made, like ham and flour, but sometimes they were paid with money. Children sometimes learn the alphabet by reading rhymes.
Good students in early schools were expected to learn more than high marks.
Most pioneers can afford going to school.
Teachers punished students by sleeping students by burning their bare ankles with the magnifying glass.
If a student was late, they must stay after school.
We
studied the blacksmith shop.
The blacksmith. The builder's tools is a chisel, a maul, a auger, a broad axe, a hatchet, axes, a handsaw, a adze, and a crosscut saw. Did you know wooden bowls were made from maple burls? Did you know 200 years ago you couldn't run down to the corner and ask for some candles? Did you know the pioneers in eastern Canada learned about getting sugar from trees from the Indians?
When people come to the blacksmith is when their horse's shoe is lost or when someone's axe is broken. They probably live beside a house or a farm. They needed a blacksmith because he needs to make metal stuff. They need to make metal stuff with a place where there's fire so they can bend the metal. A blacksmith can do almost anything you need. The blacksmith can make a coffee grinder. A blacksmith can make any tool you need, like a handsaw or a maul, or a crosscut saw or a broad axe. He also can make ox wagon wheels.
The blacksmith was a very important person. Every neighborhood needed one. The blacksmith's place to work is called a forge. The forge and its chimney is made with stones or bricks. In the barn or just outside were the places that the horses and oxen stood were fitted with horseshoes or ox shoes. Nail rods are iron strips about 5 centimeters and a meter or so long. This rod was made out of quite a soft iron. Blacksmiths made almost every iron thing. Did you know hitching posts were used to make horses stay in one place while the blacksmith fitted them with horseshoes? Did you know that even oxes came to get fitted with ox shoes? A fire is a person who actually puts the horseshoes onto the horses. Did you know that the blacksmith doesn't make everything that is metal?
The blacksmith makes stuff like an anvil, ox shoe, pliers, horseshoe nail, bellows, hammers, and a horseshoe. And he sometimes works with them. Did you know that the blacksmith lets people buy a hay knife? It's a knife that cuts off hay. Did you know that the blacksmith makes a mezzaluna for people to cut wood? Did you know that the blacksmith makes a pot-bellied stove? A stove for him to make the stuff he uses and makes.
Our project is on the general store. Did you know that tasting was part of the general store? When new cheese arrived, little samples were passed around to taste. The samples were on biscuits or crackers. Ham tidbits were sometimes served. Pickles were passed out. And when any person bought the goods, they were sampled first. How did people pay for their goods? Most people traded or bartered things, and if they had little money, they could pay for it. Where did the goods come from? The storekeeper ordered goods from larger towns or cities. Some special goods like China came from as far away as Europe. Why did people go to the general store? People went to the general store to get their mail and to buy the things they couldn't make.
Who goes to the general store? The pioneers went to the general store. What did the general store sell? They sell anything the pioneers couldn't make themselves. When was the general store built? It was built before the schoolhouse. Where was the general store? In the villages or the towns?
Did you know that the general store was also a mail place? And back then, you had to pay to get your mail. Did you know that if someone bartered butter for ribbon, the storekeeper could only give them from the tip of their thumb to their baby finger?
Why is that?
Because if they gave the whole roll of ribbon to that customer, then it would take a long time before more ribbon arrived, and it was a very valuable thing and hard to come by. Did you know that pioneers played checkers in the general store? And the general store was a meeting place for the early settlers.
Did you know villages grew around the general store? Did you know the general store was a very important place for the pioneers?